Welcome to Off the Wall. My name is Trey. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us this week. We've got a really good show for you ahead, and one of the more fun interviews I've had in recent memory with Coach Kurtiss Riggs, 11-time league champion, won 7 IFL titles, made it to championship games 10 years in a row as the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm. So we dive into his football journey, his playing career that led him to playing indoor football, as well as the 20-year run that he had with Sioux Falls, and diving into his journey into commentary and some of the stuff that he's been doing this season with the IFL and in recent seasons, both in the collegiate ranks and in the IFL as well. So really fun conversation. Kurtiss Riggs is one of my favorite commentators out there for reasons that I mentioned in the interview. So it won't spoil too much of it, but very good conversation. I love that Riggs just lets it fly. He'll tell you exactly how he feels, exactly how it is, and it's refreshing to see. So excited to share that conversation with you guys. And after that, we'll dive into some IFL results. We'll dive into some AF1 results and NAL results as well. Busy weekend of football behind us, and a really fun weekend of football ahead of us, where we've got the IFL Cup happening next Monday, May 18th. Off the Wall will be boots on the ground. We will be in the building for that. So very excited to be there. Got some stuff lined up before the games, during the games, after the games. A lot of stuff to come on that, and already setting up some really cool interviews with some folks that people may recognize. We'll just say that. But as I point out on the last episode of Off the Wall, and I threw on socials a little bit earlier this week, I have a unique opportunity ahead of me where I'll be joining Ben Wilson, who was the guest last week on Off the Wall, on commentary. So he'll be doing the radio call for the local Vegas affiliate. He'll be doing play-by-play, and I'll be joining him as color commentary. So very excited to make my debut. That's me straightening my tie. Sorry, Spotify and Apple Podcast listeners. I'm straightening my tie and trying to be dapper and proper. But making my color commentary debut with Ben, and it should be one heck of a time. So the call to action this week, if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you go down to the comment section and throw in some buzzwords you want me to sprinkle into the broadcast. Not making any promises. Not going to say that this is going to make it or that's going to make it, but give me some buzzwords. Give me some keywords you want to see sprinkled in there, and I'll see if I can work it in there organically and see what we can do. So throw that in the comments. And if you're on YouTube, thank you for watching. Please make sure you're subscribing, liking the video, sharing with a friend. Go check out some of the shorts that we have on there as well, and follow that call to action. Let me know some buzzwords in there. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hello, thank you for doing that as well. Please go to the show page and rate it 5 stars, and share it with a friend. We're still growing this thing out and growing the sport of indoor and arena football, and every share, every little bit counts. So means a lot to see all the support so far, and to see it continue to go and grow from here. But if you don't already, please make sure you're also following us on socials at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball, Off the Wall FB. We're on Instagram, X/Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook as well. So all of those are linked in the description below. So please make sure you go give us a follow in there and engage and join the conversation. Love chopping it up with folks and hearing what people have to say. And let's not waste any more time. Let's dive into the interview with Coach Kurtiss Riggs. All right, on the show this week, we have one of the best to ever coach in indoor football. He's the former coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, an 11-time league champion, and you can hear him on the call this weekend for the IFL Cup. It is Coach Kurtiss Riggs. Coach, appreciate you taking the time to hop on here. How are things in your world?
They're good. Yeah, it's good. It's good to be on here finally. I think we talked about it previously, and it just didn't work out. So thanks for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got a busy season of indoor football, and then we'll talk about the weekend ahead. But I like to start off all these conversations with, tell me a little bit about your football journey that led to you initially getting involved in the world of indoor football.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. We had a good college career as a team at University of Sioux Falls. We won the national title. I had a really good career, and I went over to Europe to play after that. And I came back, and I was pretty beaten up, ready to be done, ready to move on. and my roommate was Kalen DeBoer, and he was playing indoor for the team in Sioux Falls, and he was like, man, you got to do this. It's fun. We need a quarterback too, and so after enough coming at me with it, I gave in and I went and played, and it was a blast. It was fun.
Yeah.
Um, but then as Kalen and I both were going to hang it up and just go sit in the stands and have a beer and make fun of poor coaching decisions.
Yeah.
Uh, the head coach at the time asked me to be the offensive coordinator, and then after 1 year of that, the next year, right before our season's about to start, he gets hired at University of Louisville and says, "Hey, that they, I recommended you to be the head coach, and they don't have time to do a search. I mean, they're pretty much going to have to hire you." And so they did. They offered me the job, and I took that, and that was 2003 was my first
Yeah.
year as the head coach, and then 23 was my last year.
Yeah, what a run that was, and it's funny to hear you kinda fell backwards into it, and you were like, "All right, if we're gonna do this, let's do it right."
Yeah, I don't know if I actually did it that way. I came back from Europe and my body was just beat up, and
Yeah,
then as I saw some of the guys I knew playing and having fun, I jumped in, but didn't really commit myself near as much because for us, especially in Sioux Falls, I mean, I was working full time and as a
right.
teacher and still trying to maintain to be able to play and I knew I wasn't doing it justice. And so, that year I played, and then I played one more season after that. And then I was like, yeah, we're done with this.
Well, you mentioned playing in Europe. How did that come about? And I have it written down here. Is it Le Corneveux Flash? Did I pronounce that right?
Le Coronov, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So I knew I had a really good college career, but I was also very aware. What a lot of players lack today is self awareness. I
yeah.
was very aware that I was 6'1", 185 pounds, left-handed quarterback that wasn't very fast. And I knew I didn't have a shot to go anywhere. I did go a little ways with the Iowa Barnstormers until Coach Gregory invited me into camp to throw and work out the veteran guys. And as I'm getting ready, I'd thrown about 500 balls that day for all the tryouts. And so the veteran quarterbacks walk in and they start throwing, and I thought, Jesus, man, who are these guys? I can't throw like these guys. And it was Kurt Warner and Aaron Garcia were the guys throwing, and I'm like, well,
Yeah,
I didn't know how good they were at that point, but I knew I wasn't as
yeah,
good as them. And now looking back, I think, well, yeah, all right, those guys definitely beat me out. But so when I didn't make that, I knew I was going to go into coaching, and then a team from Europe called and said, hey, we'll pay for you to come over and all expenses and pay you, and it was in Paris that we lived, and the World Cup was going on too at the same
oh,
time, and
wow.
yeah, it was a good time. We were there for about 7 months.
Yeah, that had to be I'm sure you look back on some of that and be like, "How did this happen?" Like, it had to be a whirlwind in the moment, but I'm sure you look back on it pretty fondly.
It was good. Yeah, it was good. It
Yeah.
was. I was ready to come back to the states, but it was. We got to travel a ton. There's a lot of downtime. 8 months. It's not football season the entire time, but they were the French champions, so they got to play in the Euro Bowl championship, and so
Oh,
that
neat.
season that doesn't go until later. So you got to sit around and wait for a while. And we went to the Euro Bowl championship game against Hamburg, Germany, and lost in that. And that was when I don't know if you ever saw that commercial where the quarterback's completely indented in the grass. Like that
Yeah.
was me in that game, and where I pretty much walked out of there saying, "Yeah, this is it. I'm all done now."
Yeah, I'm all set. I'm good. Well, what were your first impressions of the indoor football game when you first started playing it?
When I finally gave in and came to practice and got involved, my first impression was that the head coach at the time was the biggest dick. And yeah, he was not he hated me. And there was another player from a university in town that also came in late, who also was a good player for that school, and he kind of felt like we did this on purpose, which we didn't. So he really held it against us, and he couldn't stand us.
Yeah,
Thankfully, he worked hard to get himself fired. And Mike Aldridge, who the guy that ended up hiring me, was the guy that took over, and we quickly transitioned, and then I loved it. It was great. I couldn't believe how
yeah.
fast it was. Um, and just the athletes that were doing this wasn't what I would have expected. And we would play a team out of Lincoln, Nebraska, and they were full of Cornhuskers. And then even, guys that had played in the NFL. Troy Dumas was their starting middle linebacker. I mean, the guy played quite a few years with the Chiefs.
Yeah, so the talent, yeah, it was definitely all over the place when you look at some of those teams back then, and I thought that was super interesting to look at your coaching progression of you were the OC for a year, and then you were the head coach, and then you kind of hit the ground running from there. From a coaching perspective, what do you think enabled you to have some early success and get things clicking pretty quickly?
Well, I was coaching in college at the same time. I was coaching at
Mhm.
University of Sioux Falls with Kalen DeBoer. And so, I felt comfortable coaching. What I learned though was the personalities were different. Then I started off in high school, and then coaching college, and then indoor football with guys that were all the stars from the schools they came from. But I learned, and I'm very thankful of it, that every guy has their own story. I mean, there's they're not just football players. They come from different backgrounds and upbringings and cultures. And I think as I was able to pick that up, which it wasn't too hard early because we were full of just Midwest guys. And then we sprinkle
Mhm.
in a few guys from outside of the Midwest. So getting to know them wasn't tough. But then as the league evolved a little bit, the rosters changed, and you ended up having a lot of guys from out of the area come in, but it was still the same formula. And I think that was a big part of our success was heavy Midwest guys, sprinkle in some guys, and the blue collar mentality that was able to just carry over.
Yeah, those corn-fed fellas on the O line, you needed a couple of those to make sure you were anchored right.
Yeah, it was funny because as we started to win titles, we would get accused of cheating, and I'd be at league meetings, and it would go on and on. And finally, I would say, we had a defensive end named Nate Floyd who played at Augustana College. And I said, hey, I don't remember any of you trying to get Nate Floyd from Augustana and accusing us of paying him too much. And he was the two-time defensive player of the year. And
Right.
we had a roster full of those guys. It's just we were able to get the same guys to come back every year. I mean, we had a
Right.
roster with the same guys for a lot of years, until finally Todd got kind of tired of the whole thing, and we won the title. And then I'll never forget, he calls me right after, and when we got back to town, and said, "Hey, I'm cutting every guy on the roster. We're going to let them all go." And every guy, and other teams can pick them up, whatever they want. I don't care. Build a new roster and show them, that we can win again. And
Yeah.
we did. Yeah, we did. We cut them all. And
Yeah.
thankfully, we got a few of them back, but we were able to build another roster and continue to keep winning.
Yeah, no matter what excuse they threw at you, you're like, "All right, we'll win your way. We'll play your rules, and we'll still beat you."
Yeah, there was some years though in there where we got vindictive about it. We ran the score up on people
Yeah.
intentionally, and that was not a good way to handle things. That was a definite learning experience because at some point it's not what goes around comes around, because there wasn't going to be anyone running the score up on us like that. But just at some point someone was going to have a say in certain matters, like when we had to when we got suspended for we had a van that was if anything maybe worth $500. I mean, this thing was the biggest piece of shit, and the guys would use that van to drive from the hotel to community events or to practice. And so they used it as a way to say that we're providing illegal, benefits to our players.
That's
And
crazy.
after they came down on us, they then all the teams, all the other owners were like, "Well, we got one too, a lot nicer than
Yeah,
that."
exactly. Yeah.
But it was a way for them to kind of hey, we can get back at them here a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Todd. Tell me about your relationship with IFL Commissioner Todd Tryon and how that's evolved over the years, going from player to assistant coach to owner, and then commissioner of the league all while you were the head coach in Sioux Falls.
Yeah, I mean, it was very much me that got him. Todd was a player. Todd was a player on the
Yeah.
team. In fact, that first team I came in on played, Todd was on that, and we played
Mhm.
together for a couple years. And then when I became the head coach, I asked him to help coach. And then he started up 24-hour access gyms in our community, and there was none. I mean, he was very savvy,
Yeah.
great business mind, and he built them up to about 11 or 12 of them. And then there was large corporations coming in, so he was savvy and smart enough to sell them off, and then became very successful in AdvoCare, and success to the point of where he couldn't help me coach anymore. Well, then
Yeah.
when we had a difficult situation with our previous owner, the Bukurvich family, which are unbelievable people. Just it just fell in a tough situation. I went to Todd and said, "Hey, can you come help us out?" And he knew the Bukurvich family very well too, and
Yeah.
so Todd was able to step in and pretty much inherit the team, and then still use the team to help him continue to build his AdvoCare business. And I think we went. I bet we went 4 years straight of where we sold out every home game. We never lost. I mean, we just absolutely smashed teams when they came to Sioux Falls. I mean, it
Yeah.
was just we would have complete sections that stood the entire game, and people had a great time, and it was a lot of fun. If you talk to people that played against us at that time, they'll tell you what a difficult place it was to play. You couldn't hear
Yeah.
anything. Our end zones were really tiny. It was a distinct home field advantage, and it was a lot of fun. And players wanted to come play because of that atmosphere.
Yeah, I believe it. And what was Todd Tryon the player like to be around?
Oh, he's great. Yeah, he was good. He was, he was very athletic. He could play DB, receiver, and he could long snap. So he was so valuable to a 21 man roster because he could do so many things.
Yeah.
Um, and he actually was a little bit bigger. If you've seen him, you'd think, well, geez, but he was a little bigger when he was playing. Um, and so to go back, when we won the title in 2019 at Arizona, when we went down and upset them, they're undefeated. After the game, that's when he told me, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to sell the team." Um, and then then he became the commissioner just by a weird deal where,
Yeah.
as the owner started to think about who's someone that's been involved with business, playing, coaching, all the elements of what we need in that next leader, Todd's name got brought up, and once he interviewed, they all knew he's the perfect fit.
Yeah, I remember chatting with him about this, and he said, "Yeah, I was out of indoor football for about a week, and then I
Yeah,
was the commissioner." Like, it was
yeah,
so fast.
yeah. Yeah, I remember when I met with him about, hey, you need to come help us get out of this rut with the storm, and he didn't realize what that was going to walk him into.
Yeah.
Then when I go, hey, they're talking about you being the next commissioner. What do you think? And he kind of weighed it and thought, well, I mean, it can't be that bad. And um, I don't think he realized that for business owners, how much he would still be on the phone dealing with just issues and problems and
Right. Yeah.
all the different scenarios. And he's done a tremendous job.
Yeah, the growth of the league since he's taken over has been awesome to see. But going back to the 2010s, you mentioned when teams would come into Sioux Falls, just smash them. I mean, 10 straight championship game appearances, 7 titles. Like, what was it about the program and the culture that you developed that helped make that run so successful?
Yeah, well, it was an expectation. I mean, most teams would be like, "Hey, we want to make the playoffs," and ours was, we're going to win the title, and that was
Yeah.
it. That was the only thing we wanted. In 2005, we'd lost. So my second year as head coach, we went to the title game and at home, and we got smashed by Lexington, Kentucky, and we learned a valuable lesson about you got to really you got to build from inside. You got to build up the trenches, and then work from there. And so we worked hard on doing that. In 2005, then we upset Sioux City, who had Fred Jackson as their tailback, and
Oh, wow.
we beat them at their place. And after we won that game, I think we won, I don't know, like 40 some straight games. And even when we went 10 years in a row to the championship, we would have kept going the entire time, but we had the where we had to forfeit 5 games and we couldn't go to the playoffs
Mhm.
one season. And so we were defending champs, we couldn't defend our title. And then the next year we got right back into the run. I think we went 6 straight title games again.
Yeah.
So it was just a belief of here's we're going to go to the championship, but here's how you do it. And we were able to get the guys to believe. Now there were some years we went through some tough times of guys just thought as soon as they came to us that we would automatically be in the title, and we would have to lose some tough games and learn from
Mhm.
those and then adjust and get better during the season. But we were able to do that. We great coaching staff that I was able to get and keep in Sioux Falls.
What's the hardware situation looking like with all those titles and rings? Like, you literally have more rings than fingers at this point.
Yeah, I have 4 from USF too.
Oh,
So
yes.
I won. Yeah, I won 1 as a player, and then I
Yeah.
won three as a coach. So Kalen DeBoer, when he was head coach and I was his offense coordinator, we
Yeah.
we won 3 titles that way too. So yeah, I never wear one of the rings. I never do. It doesn't appeal to me. I mean, I
Yeah.
know I have them. I see the guys wearing them, and I don't think anything of it. I think good for you. That's nice.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, you're very proud. I'm very proud of the case. I have 14 of these things in.
Yeah.
So like but as some of them post and start to say things, I think, well, maybe I should show these and showcase this. And then no, it's all right. I know, and everyone in Sioux Falls, we all know it was something
Yeah.
we're extremely proud of.
Yeah. If you ever get the itch to just remind some folks of what's what,
Yeah,
I'll be there
they
for
look
it.
good in the case. There's some really good
Yeah.
ones in there.
Well, towards the end of your coaching career, you had the chance to coach with your son, Peyton, in Sioux Falls, and he's been doing a great job over in Arizona this year. Tell me about that and what it was like being able to get him on the staff.
Well, he'd always been around indoor. I mean, he grew up around it,
Yeah.
and so he knew it very well. He actually, he went to play college basketball, and then he wanted to coach basketball in college, and then he just was like, God, there's not as much schematics. I love having, where I can be a part of it, and so he wanted to coach football, and he was around the team for a little while, and then Kalen hired him to come out and work in the recruiting department at University of Washington. So he went out there and he worked for a year and thought, man, this is a grind. College
Yeah.
football is it consumes your life, and he's like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. And he said, well, can I come back and coach? Well, we won the title in 2019. And when Todd told me he wanted to sell the team, I said, well, this is a good time for me to step away then. I'll be done.
Mhm.
And when he sold the team, the new owners, who are fantastic people, said they wanted me to stay on as a coach or they wouldn't buy the team. And I thought, well, that's fair. I'll stay on and help them.
Yeah.
But then COVID hit. That was their first year of purchase, and
Dang.
that was tough. That was really tough. Well, then after Peyton went to Washington and came back, I said, well, you know what? I'm going to stay on and coach with my son. Well, that first year he joined the staff, and I made him the offensive coordinator right away. I mean, I knew he had the mind. People were like, well, he's doing it because it's his son. No, I did it because he's extremely intelligent,
Yeah.
and he knows the game very well, even better. He knows it better than I do. And so I never questioned that. I knew we were in good hands there, but we weren't very good. That was the problem.
Yeah.
After COVID, and we just didn't have the same appeal of coming to Sioux Falls to play here. It was difficult, and the league was getting better too. There was a lot
Right.
of good
Yeah.
teams. So we had a rough year. It was the first year we did not make the playoffs ever, and it came down to the last game too. And we had the lead, and we could have finished it, and we didn't. And it kind of summed up our season. So I couldn't end that way, and I didn't want him to end with he and I coaching where we didn't make the playoffs. So I came back for the season in 23, and we weren't overly talented that year either. We just we had some breaks go our way, and we were able to get to the championship game, and we lost a tough one against Bay Area. But that's I had announced early that I was done. And the
Yeah.
plan was I was going to go coach with Kalen at Washington. Um, but then just life happens. My daughter's battling some neurological disorders, and yeah,
Okay.
I want to be close to where I can get to her if needed, and then Kalen also went to Alabama too.
Wow. Interesting to hear that you were almost out over in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, it was close. Yeah, I stepped away from the Storm. I owned an academy. I gave up my ownership of that, and I was a professor at the university. I quit teaching, and was ready to move, and then just things kind of played. The cards were laid out to where it was like, hey, maybe you should stay a little bit longer. And I
Right.
knew I was still done though. I knew I was still done coaching indoor football. I didn't have the same drive and passion when I was trying to get a player, when I was at practice. I always liked practice more than anything else, and I didn't have that same drive. And so I knew it was time for me to get away.
Well, credit to you for having self-awareness and not limping across the finish line. Like you
Yeah.
knew you're like, all right, I don't have it. I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I felt like thankfully I had great assistants that worked their tail off,
Yeah.
and knew kind of what we expected, but I just knew I couldn't give them the same in return.
Right. Well, you retired from coaching, and then not too far after, the Sioux Falls Storm ended up going dormant. It seemed like that there was a venue issue that was like the crux of what was going on there. If I'm not mistaken, you were in kind of involved with that when it was all going down. Is that right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was the one that wasn't afraid to speak out.
Yeah.
Everyone else was a little more hesitant because they were trying to work on contract negotiations, but I really didn't care, because I just wanted the community to know. Todd, when we were at the old arena, and the mayor was getting the proposal for the new one to get passed, he was adamant about it being a community driven facility, and still our community teams would play there, even
Yeah.
though, hey, we want a concert with 15,000 people in there. Well, when that mayor stepped away and the new one came in, he hired a company to run the Premier Center, and they didn't give two shits about community
Mhm.
teams. And so Todd had to fight that battle, and then our new owners came in, where they just saw this as a chance to really drive out the one of the community teams, and so I had to sit and watch how these guys were treated and how hard they would work to try to maintain a relationship. And you saw the writing on the wall that it was going to be really difficult to be able to maintain and stay and play in the building, which was tragic and sad because of everything we had accomplished, and still a very strong member of the community.
Yeah, and it was just crazy to see how it all went down. Like you said, for 20 years. Sioux Falls Storm football, not just in Sioux Falls, but across the country, was like a, a well-known brand, and to see it just go away so quickly. Do you see a path where indoor football's ever back in Sioux Falls again, or do you think too many things have to change for that to occur?
No, I don't. There's a hockey facility in Sioux Falls that's just been recently built that had reached out to the Storm about, hey, let's do this, and that's the Storm was going to move there and play, and then as they did the city inspection, it didn't meet code for indoor football. It's built for hockey, so when you take the
Mhm.
glass out, the were down below your knees. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and so you can't have that. Well, when they looked at the modifications of raising that space, it was very expensive. They have reached out to Todd and said, "Hey, if we make these modifications, would you look at getting a team back in here?" He said, "We'll make the modifications first, and then I would look at it." But I would say it's highly unlikely, and I would say two reasons why. I would say one, the economic structure of the league now is doing so well that it's larger communities that are drawing the teams, and
Mhm.
I think smaller Midwest communities like a Sioux Falls would have a difficult time coming in with the financial burden of what it would take to get into the league. So I think that's a big challenge. So I don't want to say that, hey, there's not someone that will come in and say, hey, let's do this, whatever it costs. But I think the league has gone a different direction, and not anything against that at all. I think it's going
Yeah.
outstanding. But I think it doesn't work out for a place like Sioux Falls to have a team in that direction.
Yeah, that makes sense, and it seemed like it was a lot like, I remember when everything was going down, seeing the stuff coming from the venue, but then I think I remember reading something about the hockey portion of it where it's like, it's just not working itself out, so, yeah, it's a bummer to see it happen, but, never say never, hopefully sometime in the future, but whether
Yeah.
that's in the IFL, who knows?
Well, they wouldn't go and play in some other league. It wouldn't be
Right.
that. That would never happen. Everyone is just too proud, and they would want to be in the best league. They would never resort to dropping down to one of the other leagues that you see out there. That would never
Right.
happen.
I got you. Well, fast forward a little bit to this year. You've been in the mix on commentary a lot, and I've been loving it. I think it's so refreshing to hear brutal honesty at times, and and hearing a perspective from somebody who dominated this game for so long. To tell me about the transition from coaching to broadcasting and some of the adjustments you had to make.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I was asked in Sioux Falls to with my academy to if I would be because I knew all the area kids would I be interested in doing color for the state championship games here, and I did it. It went well. They really liked me. They asked me. I've done it now. I think 15 years in a row, and then from that I got asked to do. College games, area high school games, and now I do South Dakota State football games
Yeah.
for the local TV station here, and then I was able to do previous championship games for the IFL. So I was able to kind of build up some history and learn the ins and outs of things. But really, when I first started doing it, like I literally walked in and just sat down and started watching the game and talking about it. And the person next to me had all the names and the board and all these facts. And I didn't have any of it. And I think they
Okay.
thought, well, what the hell's this guy? But I could just sit there and talk about football. And I tried to relate and talk about what I thought people at home were wondering or thinking about. And then
Right.
also questioning things. I think, many never do that. And I feel like my
Mhm.
position as a coach, I'm able to do that. And if you heard like week one, I criticized Dixie Wooten a lot. And
Yeah.
then the next game I did, he did an outstanding job of responding and correcting, and I was the first one to give him all the love, and then I was attacking Kevin Guy and
Yep.
their system, and Kevin handled it well. Some of his assistants didn't respond too well to it, um,
Yeah.
but when they watch the film, they see it too, and,
Yeah.
and so I'm gonna say what I think there, and it's never personal. It's the
Right.
schematics, and maybe the game planning. I like this last week. I felt like Jacksonville was very lucky to win that game because they did not manage the clock well at all at the end. They
Yeah.
did not work to try to make sure they would get the ball back, and they were lucky it didn't cost them.
Yeah, I love that Arizona Fishers game sticks out to me. There were a couple gems you threw out there. There was a couple of like, what are they doing? And I think at one point you said, I think I'm gonna vomit. Like they
Yeah,
won't make the changes. And I was like,
yeah.
this is so refreshing to hear because usually they're
Yeah.
so buttoned up, they're afraid to really speak the truth. But I'm like, Coach Riggs is just letting it fly. I love it.
But the other thing I just can't hold back is when it's just so blatantly obvious of what they're doing is so bad, or a lack of effort. Like if
Right.
I see a player that is just half-assing it, I mean, I'm going to point that out,
Yeah.
and deservingly so, because these guys are paid and they're playing for the hopes of moving on. Well, every scout is seeing that same thing. And so I hope that player, when they hear me do it, yeah, get mad at me, that's fine, but also
Yeah.
realize those scouts and everyone else saw the same thing too. And hopefully, me saying it hit home a little bit harder to make them work that much harder.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the Liga development, like you said, they want to get people. You play inside to get back outside, and you
Right.
gotta be giving it all your effort, right? So it makes
Yeah.
sense. Well, this upcoming weekend, we've got the IFL Cup at American Dream in Jersey. You'll be on the call for all the games up there, or just a
Yeah.
couple of them?
No, all of them.
So, what are you most excited about heading into the weekend?
Well, after we did our coaches calls today, so I do Tulsa Saturday night, Tulsa Green Bay. That's going to be a great game, and
Oh,
and
okay.
and and then I'll fly to New York on Sunday, and we did all the coaches calls today, and they let Mad Dog be on the call, which I quickly learned his sole purpose for being on the calls was to just poke the bear, and it,
Yep,
it
yep.
wasn't just Kevin and Mike. It was, hey, Rod Windsor, this is what Kevin Guy just said about Orlando, or comments to New
Yeah,
Mexico, and he just was trying to amp it up to where every game is going to be the championship. And it was
yeah,
interesting to see. But I think the one thing I respect of this is Jared and Todd have done a great job of building it up, but also following through with it. A lot of times you see
right.
things like this built up and then it's a major letdown. You can see the importance with the teams of how valuable and how important it is to play in this with the extra exposure that they'll get.
Yeah. I mean, what are some key things you're looking for in some of these matchups? We got Arizona versus New Mexico, and then Vegas and Orlando.
Well, I think everyone, if they don't know, the quarterback from New Mexico was traded. And
Mm,
so now, and they just the coach was clear that hey, he wasn't a pocket passer, and we want a pocket passer, and so they got the kid. They got let go by Iowa. They feel like he's a
mhm,
Harry. They feel like he's a better pocket passer. I think
yeah,
the issue isn't necessarily the pocket, or Johnson wouldn't stay in the pocket. It was because the guys in different color jerseys were in the backfield so fast he had to run for his
yes,
life.
yeah,
But I guess we'll see what happens. They've got to play Arizona. But the second game, Orlando and Vegas, I think is the makings of a very good game. And everyone wants Arizona Vegas so badly. Vegas has got to get past Orlando first, and they
agreed,
are the most talented team in the league. But they always kind of seem to trip themselves up. But
right,
their quarterback, I think, is playing very well. I think it's two of the better quarterbacks in the league at this point in the season in that game playing. So I think Vegas is the MVP right now, and I think the Orlando kid, if he keeps going the way he is, he could be right there too.
yeah. Both of those quarterbacks are some of the best pure passers in this league right now. So the fact that we get that matchup on Monday night is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've been in the mix with the IFL for so long. What excites you about the league and the direction it's headed?
Well, I'm the excitement of some of the new teams that want to come in. It's not
Yeah,
just the thing I love is it's not just some guy that you're really worried about. Like, boy, he seems sketchy.
yeah,
Like he was very successful making plastic sandwich bags of a company I've never heard of, and he made how many millions? I don't believe this. And then sure enough, 2 weeks into the season, the players are like, "Hey, coach, can we come there? We're not even getting meal vouchers." And you don't have those issues anymore. Like you don't. And I think they're doing a much better job of like Athens being announced. It looks like it's going to be strong ownership, and there's other teams in that southeast area that look like they're going to make a really great division down there. That's only going to strengthen the league.
Yeah, as soon as Orlando moved down there to pair up with Jacksonville, I'm like, okay, the Southeast is going to be some fun football to watch. I'm excited
Yeah,
to see that continue to grow.
Orlando's got to figure out this facility though, because one, it's too big. I mean, it's
It's a
beautiful.
big building.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
beautiful, but I'm sure the amount they're paying for it is asinine.
yeah,
And the crowd that they're getting in there just gets drowned out because it's so big.
yeah.
They got to get that figured out. Places like Fishers and Vegas,
Right.
perfect size arena, perfect. Now Tulsa's is
Totally agree.
bigger, but they get them, And then when they know
Yeah.
they're not going to have that full crowd, they tarp that top, which really helps make it feel like it's very secluded and full still. So I think you got to have a plan that's more than just getting the best players. And that's where Orlando really falters is they don't think big picture. They think only I'm going to go out and get the best guys.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to take some time for Orlando to grow into that building if they do at all, because it is just a massive building.
Now
It's
I get to
it's
go
it's
out there
tough
in
to fill it.
June, so I'm excited to see the facility in the building, but
Yeah.
hope that they can get that figured out.
100%. Well, thank you so much, Coach, for the time today. I'll be at the IFL Cup on Monday, so hopefully I'll see you again and be able to chat a little bit. But yeah, super excited for the rest of the season in the IFL Cup, and looking forward to hearing you drop more gems on commentary.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you out there.
Big thanks again to Coach Riggs for joining the show and talking through his journey and giving a little preview of what's ahead with the IFL Cup and the rest of this IFL season. Like I said in my chat with him, I love hearing him on commentary because it's just so refreshing to hear a sometimes brutally honest take on something that may be happening in a game. And so the fact that we get him on the call for Tulsa Green Bay and we get him for all the IFL Cup games, that's going to be very fun. So big shout out to Coach Riggs. Excited to chop it up with him a little bit more when I see him. Hopefully see him in person on Monday, and yeah, hopefully hear his voice a lot more as the season progresses. So we're going to dive into the IFL first this week. Only five games, only 5 games in the IFL this past weekend, and I was fortunate enough to be in attendance for 2 of them. 2 games happening in the state of Florida on Saturday and Sunday, and I was able to do the little Florida doubleheader swing through there and visit some family and friends and family at the same time. So starting off on Friday, Quad City went to Green Bay where the Steamwheelers fell to the Green Bay Blizzard 65-40. So this Green Bay team, they're just so impressive. They had some early hiccups from Liam Thompson, and Liam Thompson has been darn near perfect this entire year, but he had a couple of interceptions early that were very uncharacteristic. He only had one heading into this game through 7 games, which is insane to think about. But this offense really rebounded from that, and they just kept rolling. They just kept going, and the defense responded and got some stops of their own. The Green Bay offense scored 9 touchdowns for the second consecutive home game, with Thompson accounting for 5 of those through the air and 207 passing yards. And 45 of those passing yards came from a little catch and run from Terrell Carey that should have been just get the first down and get tackled. But Quad City just had no interest in tackling him apparently, and he exploded for the full length of the field and got in for a touchdown. So with the 5 passing touchdowns, they also had 4 rushing touchdowns on the ground. So this offense is just so effective and so well balanced, where Liam Thompson can crush you through the air, or he can tuck it on a read option and beat you on the ground and really put you in some unwinnable situations, which he did a handful of times against this Quad City defense. But right now, it seems like Liam Thompson is the runaway for the IFL MVP at this point. And the Blizzard are in a fantastic spot too. They're halfway through their games played this year. They're sitting at 7-1. So they're in the driver's seat for the 1 seed at this point, basically beating up on every other team that they've played. up to this point where they lost to Quad City, but they just avenged that loss and really put them in a bad spot with Quad City dropping to 2-6 on the season. So Green Bay looking really, really good at this point, and they're spreading the ball out to a ton of different people. It's not like it's just one person beating you. If you shut one person down, the next person steps up for this Green Bay offense, and the Green Bay defense is starting to be opportunistic at the same time. But for Quad City, it's if this was a game they just couldn't afford to lose, and they lost. Like I said, 2-6 on the year, just such a disappointing season, continues to get even more disappointing. And on paper, this team just looked unbelievable heading into the season. An already talented team from last year returning most of their production and adding a wide receiver like Keon Williams. You like a lot of folks thought, myself included, that this team was going to go on a run and really make some noise in the East all season. And they've been making noise. Unfortunately, it's just for the wrong reasons. They've just been playing so poorly on offense. They were stale and stagnant in the first half. And, with those Liam Thompson interceptions, they had opportunities to really make this interesting and jump out on top of Green Bay. But Green Bay played a rough opening 20 minutes, and Quad City just couldn't jump on them, couldn't take advantage of it. And yeah, this Quad City team, they had each loss that they've had so far, the um the margin of error decreases, and they're to a point now where they basically have to go 8-0 the rest of the season in order to get into the playoffs. And they may be 7-1 if some other teams falter, but they're in a spot where they have to win out to comfortably make a claim for the playoffs and to realistically have a shot. But the I think the frustrating thing with this Quad City is that they don't really have one blatant issue on their team. And every single game that they lose, they're shooting themselves in the foot, not with a bullet, but with a BB gun, 1,000 times. Where it's little stuff like some poor play calling on both sides of the ball at times. There was a play in this one where Green Bay kicked it off, and two Quad City players tried to field the same kickoff, and Green Bay, it bounced off both of them, and Green Bay ended up recovering it. There's just little mistakes here and there that are just so costly, and they add up so quickly. And they've lost 4 fumbles in this game. They had an interception in this game, and you just can't afford to have 5 turnovers in a game against a team the caliber of Green Bay, because Green Bay is not going to make that many mistakes. So if you make more mistakes in Green Bay, it's a pretty much a wrap based on how Green Bay's been playing. So Quad City would love to see them go on a run to end the year. I think that would be very entertaining storyline. But I don't know. They've just worked themselves into a shoot here, and they're not in a very good way. And they need a lot of things to change very, very quickly for them to be able to make that run. But speaking of making runs, let's head down to Orlando for the game between the Fishers Freight and the Orlando Pirates. I was in the building for this one, and this was a certified banger. Very, very good game. Orlando ended up winning 60-57 on a walk-off touchdown catch by T.O. Redding, where he toe tapped the top of the wall to be inbounds with no time left. Truly an unbelievable play. Go to the Orlando Pirates socials to go check it out if you haven't seen it already. And the moment this game becomes rewatchable on the IFL network, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, I'm telling you, you have to go watch this game, because this game was unreal to be in the building for. And I'm sure the broadcast was outstanding as well, with Brent Stover and Eric Coleman on the call. But for Orlando, heading into this game, they had a couple losses that they were reeling from, and they were making some wholesale changes pretty quickly, bringing in 4 new coaches, including 3 of them on the defensive side of the ball. And the defense had a pretty strong start in this one, where they were able to hold Fishers to a field goal that they ended up missing. But eventually the Freight offense got rolling, and there wasn't a whole lot the Pirates defense could do to slow them down. They got just enough stops to seal the win. But fortunately for the Pirates, the offense was outstanding in this one. So in a game where they were only able to slow down Fishers two-ish times, Orlando had no signs of slowing down the entire game, minus that first drive, which was basically an arm punt, so to speak. So Paxton DeLaurent had a near perfect game, 28 for 31, which Again, 28 for 31, insanity. 308 yards and 5 passing touchdowns. Naquan Murray, Orlando's very own, caught 9 passes for 133 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then Puka Williams getting 3 more scores on the ground, and this offense was looking scary. And this offense is looking like they're able to go up against the best in the league and really give them a run for their money. But fortunately, unfortunately, depending on your perspective here, offense has not been the problem for Orlando. It's that defensive side of the ball. So the fact that they barely they I don't want to say they barely eked out the win, but they had a walk-off win here and gave up 57 tells me that there's still a lot of work to do on this defense. And when you face other offenses like this, these are going to be coin flip games that you won the coin flip this time. You may not be as fortunate next time in a matchup against a Vegas and another matchup against a Green Bay again or a Jacksonville rematch. Like they really got to get the defense sorted out in order for those games to be a little bit more comfortable heading into them. But for Fishers, this is a back and forth game that was very winnable for them, and it was within their grasp. And it was thanks to their stout running game. And running back Dominic Roberto was just on a rampage in this one and just an absolute menace. 102 yards rushing and 5 rushing touchdowns. 102 yards on a 50-yard field, 5.7 yards per carry. He was unbelievable. And I was at the game with some friends of mine, and I just kept looking at them and saying, this guy is unreal. Every single time he touched the ball, he was bowling over a defender. He was punching it into the end zone, and it was just insane to see the work that he was putting in. And as a team, the Freight averaged 5.6 yards per carry, and they were able to get some chunk plays in the passing game, but the rushing attack was so good and working so well that they really didn't need a ton from the passing game. And you put in the same offensive performance 10 times, you probably win 9 of them. They just met an Orlando offense that played an A-plus game when the Freight offense played an A-minus game. And Orlando was on the opposite side of that a few weeks back against Green Bay. So I think for Fishers, they really gotta get involved in the passing game a little bit more earlier on in the game and really just find a way for to get those weapons on the outside a little bit more involved. But I don't really take it away from them that they were so focused on the run because they were averaging 5.5 yards per carry. Like, why wouldn't you? So Callum Sutherland, I think he's earning the Deuce God nickname for this season. 3 deuces on the day that made up for some shortcomings by this Fishers offense, but just came up a little short, and they dropped to 4-3 on the year. But it's looking like they're going to still be one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. But again, just getting more out of that passing game early on in the game will get them to that next level and would probably be the difference in them winning this game or losing it in a walk-off like this. And as good as the Fishers Orlando game was, we tuned in to the San Antonio Gunslingers at the Northern Arizona Wranglers game. Same sport, same league, very different ball game. San Antonio ended up winning this game 30-29. So we went from a game that was 60-57 to 30-29, literally cutting the scores in half, almost exactly, if I'm doing the math right. Yeah, basically cutting it in half. And San Antonio, this was their 3rd win in a row, and they're piecing together a nice little winning streak. But they still have yet to break 40 points in the game, which in the IFL is not very sustainable. But to San Antonio's credit, their defense has been playing outstanding these past 3 weeks, where they haven't needed the offense to score over 40 points to win a game. They held Northern Arizona to 14 a few weeks back. They held Tucson to 17 last week, and then they held Northern Arizona to 29 in this one, realistically 22, depending on if you want to count the special teams touchdowns or not. But the Gunslingers, they didn't really have big explosive plays on offense in this one. Fred Payton Jr. had another steady but not eye-popping performance with 95 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns, with Glenn Gibbons Jr. finding his way to back to form after missing some time, reeling in all 3 of those touchdowns from Payton through the passing game. But for San Antonio, this 3-game win streak They absolutely had to win these 3 games. This was the sweet spot. This was the, "Oh, yeah, we get to the soft part of our schedule." The past 3 weeks, the teams they beat, Northern Arizona, Tucson, Northern Arizona, 2-17 combined record when you combine Northern Arizona twice and Tucson. The next 3 weeks, 13-7. So I believe the next 3 games they have are San Diego, Green Bay, and then Tulsa. So Tulsa's sitting at 2-4, but they're a very, very good 2-4 team right now. So this run of games in the month of May will tell us everything we need to know about this Gunslingers team. And if they want a fighting chance against any of those teams, they're going to have to break more than 40 at some point. So where does it happen? Does it happen against San Diego, Green Bay, Tulsa? Does it happen in the month of May? We'll find out, but they need some big explosives in order to break 40 and to break the curse in the heading into the 10th week of the season. But for Northern Arizona, even though it wasn't a win, they did lose this game. It felt like a step in the right direction because quarterback play has just been abysmal for this team for the past 4.5 games. Game one was the best quarterback play that they've had all year, and what they did was they cleared out the entire quarterback room. And they say, you know what, we're starting over. We're blowing it up. We're starting again. And quarterback Anthony Garrett got the start in this one. Garrett spent some time in the Vegas Nighthawks training camp leading into the season and made a pretty good impression on the ground in this one, 85 yards and 2 touchdowns, but could really not get anything going through the passing game. So that's going to be the major focus heading into next week for this Northern Arizona offense, where the running game is great, good, love that. Now we just got to focus on doing better than 4 for 14 in the passing game. Just got to figure out a way to get the ball to the weapons on the outside, get the ball into Nolan Susel's hands. Love Nolan Susel still, but still leaning into while still leaning into the strengths of what Anthony Garrett brings to this offense. So Northern Arizona step in the right direction. They have probably the next most winnable game on their schedule next week against Iowa. So that'll be an interesting one to see play out. But yeah, Northern Arizona didn't get the win, but it felt like a moral victory in ways because this is the first game in 8 weeks that they were in it until the very end. But the next game we're going to talk about is the Tulsa Oilers at the Jacksonville Sharks. This was the second leg of the IFL Florida doubleheader that we were in attendance for. Made our way from Orlando to Jacksonville on that Sunday morning, and Jacksonville won this game 41-34. So Tulsa was controlling this game in the first half. It looked like they were going to be in the driver's seat to an easy win to get back on the right foot, but Jacksonville, while struggling in the first half, kind of got things going in the second half and really flipped the game on its head, despite some of the hiccups and despite some of the issues that they encountered as well. Jacksonville came out swinging in the third quarter and scored a touchdown on the opening drive that they absolutely needed, while holding Tulsa to a couple different field goal attempts to get back ahead, and ultimately took the win with a goal line stand with no time left. Quarterback James Cahoon, friend of the program, had a rough start in this one, but still managed to finish pretty strong with 179 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. And backup quarterback Sammy Edwards got brought in as soon as the team got into the red zone, and he's proven to be quite the secret weapon for this Sharks team as a mobile quarterback who can really make you pay, because you put him and Jimmy Robinson in the backfield in the red zone and you run a nice little read option play. More often than not, teams are going to focus in on Jimmy Robinson, and Sammy Edwards has just enough athleticism to break through the line and to really make you pay for choosing Jimmy over him. So he had two rushing touchdowns in the second half, as well as a 2-point conversion on a fake extra point that was pretty electric. And again, he's just going to give teams a lot to think about as they inch into the red zone, and with both him and Robinson in the backfield. But this Sharks team was better in the second half, and if they can continue the form that they had in the second half throughout an entire game, heading into the next couple of weeks, this team could be pretty dangerous, because they definitely have not played their best football yet, but they're still sitting at 5-1, which is incredible. They're sitting at 5-1, second in the East, and their best football is definitely ahead of them, and their potential is through the roof if they can just get out of their own way. But for Tulsa, This is their fourth loss of the year, and all four losses have been by a combined 16 points now. So an average of 4 points per loss. And they had a double-digit lead heading into halftime after Bailey Hale hit a field goal with no time left, and they had a chance to really lean on the Sharks and impose their will, and they just couldn't get the offense back up to speed coming out of the halftime. They were able, or they were willing to run the ball a lot more, which is something that I'm happy to see. It's something I've been ranting and raving about for a little while now. And rookie running back Caleb Ramseur is in the mix now. I think he got 10 or 11 carries, as did TJ, but what they just weren't really able to be as impactful with those carries as you would hope. And you know, leaning on that running game in the second half, getting the ball into the end zone rather than settling for those field goals in the second half would have been a major difference in this game and probably would have ended up with the win. The red zone play calling, it just wasn't that good. It was very predictable at times. It was very much a run, run, pass, run on first, run on second, pass on third, multiple times in the second half. And, you know, they only scored 10 points in the second half and had a chance to tie the game on the last play from, I think, it was from the 5, and then the holding call pushed it back to the 15. And this Oilers team, they just can't seem to finish games. They had a lead in Orlando, ended up going to overtime, and they lost. They had a late lead in Arizona. They let Arizona back in and lost with 7 or 8 seconds left. They had Jacksonville on the ropes in this one as well with a double-digit lead at halftime, but they let them back in and kind of died on offense. And you know, just a painful way to lose this game. But this Oilers team is in a similar situation in Quad City, but I think in a much better situation than Quad City is, where Quad City, the wheels just fall off at times. Where Tulsa, they have self-inflicted wounds, but it seems a lot more achievable in that you change 1 or 2 plays in each of the games they've lost. Now, you could make the case just one play on offense. You would change the outcome of that one play. You're looking at a 6-0, 5-1 Tulsa Oilers team. But right now they're sitting at 2-4. So I think Tulsa's in a better spot than Quad City is, despite having a similar record at this point, just based on how the games are playing out. And defensively, they've got their work cut out for them to be able to finish and close out these games, but you could say the exact same thing for the offense. So until Tulsa can figure out how to close out games and how to seal victories, they're going to continue to struggle. And I really like what this Oilers team has on paper, but end of the day, they're sitting at 2-4 for a reason. And the last game we're going to talk about is the Tucson Sugar Skulls going to Glendale, Arizona to face the Arizona Rattlers. And the Rattlers absolutely rolled on the Sugar Skulls 66-14. And heading into this one, this was a absolute primo bounce back spot for the Rattlers. They came up short against the Nighthawks last week in the IFL Cup, being just a week away. Tucson is having some troubles. We'll just say it nicely on offense. So this was a great opportunity to get right and to pounce on a team that's really struggling and to get back to form. And you would think, all right, quarterback Max Myler about to step in and right the ship a little bit, get a little like, you know, Wisconsin playing, you know, Northern Illinois on the schedule. That's what this felt like heading into this one. But then Drew Powell ended up getting the start for the Arizona Rattlers in this one, leaving some folks, myself included, thinking like, what? Why isn't Max out there? And there's some theories you could roll with, but the commentary team, Ari and said, shout out to Ari and said, made it sound like as if the Rattlers turned to Powell due to Myler's performance in recent weeks, which I understand to an extent. Myler was missing on some throws against Vegas, but his wide receivers were also letting him down in some spots too. So I thought it was an odd choice, but clearly it was the one that worked in this one. Drew Powell came in, had an incredible game, 171 passing yards and 2 touchdowns through the air, along with 4 rushing touchdowns and an average yards per carry of 8.2 on the ground. Arlen Bruce got the ball early and often, and he ended up getting 4 deuces in support from kicker Matthew Cook, which wasn't needed anyway. Deuces could have been worth -8, and they still would have absolutely rolled over Tucson in this one. But with the IFL Cup just a week away, it kind of makes you wonder what is the direction of this Arizona offense and who's going to be QB1 moving forward. Do we see them go back to Max? Do we see them stick with the hot hand of Drew Powell? Um, I feel for Max because this was like a prime get right opportunity against the Sugar Souls team that has been struggling this year. But Powell did exactly what he needed to do to make a claim to the QB1 spot. So Arizona is in a embarrassment of riches situation where they have two very viable QB1 options. Meanwhile, the guys across the hall from them in this Tucson team is just really struggling to find one. And let's talk on it for the Sugar Skulls. This is a brutal spot to be in. They brought in Taz Wilson a few weeks back. He got the start on a few days' notice for the San Antonio game, and this offense has really been struggling. And the defense has been doing its best to keep them in the games, but when an offense is just struggling to the level that this one is, there's only so much a defense can do at times, and they were just outmatched by a very, very, very good Arizona Rattlers team that was looking to right the ship and get back on the right page. Taz Wilson, really hard time getting the ball going through the air and turned the ball over a couple times. And this was another situation where it was similar to Quad City, Green Bay in a way, where Tucson couldn't afford to make any mistakes against Arizona, and they just made many, many mistakes. And for Tucson, it just feels like they're at a point now where you got to roll with Draylon Ellis. I think he has a much higher ceiling than Taz Wilson. Respectfully to Taz Wilson, we know what he is. We know what he can do at this level. He has a ceiling that he was pretty close to hitting with this past game. And I think Draylon Ellis, you got to give him time to work through some of the kinks and, get him to pull the trigger and get the ball downfield. And yeah, it's just a tough spot where Ellis has really been struggling. There's only so much you're going to get out of Taz, and yeah, I feel for this the Tucson Sugar Skulls fan base here because they're in an unenviable situation where man, Draylon Ellis. I hope he can be the guy to get things turned around, but he hasn't really shown anything since their season opener against Vegas in the second half, where he was putting up some yardage and touchdowns in garbage time. But it was in garbage time. So how much weight do you really want to put on that? So the weapons are there. He just needs to be able to be decisive and get the ball out to them. Give it to Tavion Thomas. Give it to Brandon Mackey when he's back. Give it to Tamorian Terry. Like get the ball out of your hands and into the hands of the playmakers and let them work. But yeah, Tucson, not a good quarterback situation, and they're going to continue to flounder at the bottom of the Western Conference until they get that sorted out. We're going to flip over to the AF1 now, where we had a handful of games that were down to the wire thrillers, including the one down in Beaumont, Texas, where the Washington Wolfpack got their first win of the season against the Beaumont Renegades. Washington won this game 33-32. So Washington, you want to talk about a dramatic way to win it, a walk-off win, touchdown pass caught by Deshaun Williams to win it. And man, what a win for the Wolfpack. That ended up being more of a tongue twister than I thought it would be. What a win for the Wolfpack. And this could be the beginning of the pendulum of positive momentum swinging in their favor after a rough couple of games to start the year, and then giving Albany an absolute run for their money in their third game of the year. And then this game, they needed this one badly, and they got it. Quintavious Workman, 9 catches for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. Deshaun Williams, 8 catches for 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Have Magale, 23 of 41 for 166 yards and 4 touchdowns. But the key stat, 0 interceptions. In his season debut against the Nashville Cats, I happened to be in the building for that one. He just looked like he was having trouble executing and pulling the trigger and being decisive. Something that we just talked about with some other teams in some other leagues. But it looks like that is starting to not be an issue, especially against Albany, especially in this one, where he was able to throw for 4 touchdowns, get the ball to his receivers to make plays, and kind of get out of the way. And yeah, this Beaumont team, it looked like early on in the year they were going to have some trouble adapting to the arena traditional arena style, but Andrew McBride came in against Oceanside and absolutely lit it up, but neither quarterback could really get things going for the Renegades in this one. Both of them struggled. Both of them threw interceptions, and both of them just struggled to really complete the ball consistently. They did have some life through the running game in this one. Vincent Wilkerson and Zuri Davis finding pay dirt or pay turf is I should say on the ground in this one. And yeah, it's a tough way to go out where they thought they had the game won on a late touchdown, and Washington turned around and said, "No, we got this." So yeah, this Beaumont team is continuing to go through the growing pains of adjusting to that our traditional arena football style, while Washington is this the beginning of a of good momentum for Washington? AF1 Fan Zone had J.R. Wells on the program earlier this week, and they brought up a great point. I think they said the next six opponents for Washington all have one win, just like Washington does. So this is a prime opportunity for Washington to be able to stack some wins and get back on the right track, and be able to put themselves in a spot where they could be vying for a playoff spot down the line, as long as Magalay continues to really execute and gets the ball to his weapons, because they have good weapons in Washington. They just need somebody to get the ball out to them. So big win for Washington. Beaumont still got some struggles that they're going through, but we'll see how that continues to go and grow from here. But the next game we're going to talk about is the Oregon Lightning traveling to Clarksville, Tennessee to face the Nashville Cats. And Nashville won this game 64-21. So Nashville lost a heartbreaker a few weeks back against the Kentucky Barrels on the last play of the game on a QB sneak that turned into a fumble, that turned into a lateral, that turned into another lateral. But Tyler Kolka really had a great bounce back game in this one, throwing for 205 and 7 touchdowns. And Josh Jones, friend of the program, even got in on the touchdowns as well, coming in relief of Kolka and throwing 2. So 9 total passing touchdowns on the day for this Nashville Cats team. What do we got? Charles Hall, the fourth, getting 3 of those touchdowns. Jordan Gandy getting 1. BK Smith Jr. getting 1. Desmond Maxwell getting, like, everybody was eating in this one, and it was really, really good to see. In this Nashville Cats team, they've proven that they are in that tier 1 of the Arena Football 1, where they're going to have knockdown dragouts with Albany and Kentucky, but they take care of business against the teams they need to take care of business against, like Oregon, like Washington, and then they got Oceanside coming up. So we'll see if that ends up working out the same way. But for Oregon, this was a similar situation where, similar to Beaumont, it's if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none situation where the quarterbacks for Oregon were able to find the end zone, but weren't really able to get into a flow, weren't really able to get things going at the rate that you need to be able to keep up with a Nashville. Combined, they went 14 for 37 passing. Quick math here, it's like 39%, 40%. I don't know how accurate that is, but that feels right. It feels pretty close. Like high 30s, low 40s, maybe. 3 touchdown passes on the day between them, and it's a big time boom or bust offense that they run in Oregon, and not a lot going on the ground between the 2 quarterbacks there. And yeah, Oregon's another one where I think I mentioned it on Arena Football Weekly last week with Adam. Oregon needs to prove that they can beat a team not named Washington. And it's been a little while since they've been able to do that. And they come up against a Michigan Arsenal team a few weeks back, couldn't get it done. They go up against a Nashville Cats team, and they just ran into an absolute buzzsaw in Tyler Kolka. So this Oregon team has their work cut out for them, and they're definitely not out of it by any means. But it feels like they need to really lean into either McCoy or Cole at this point. And again, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. So one quarterback really needs to be the guy, and one quarterback needs to step up. And I'm just not sure who it would be. I'd probably lean McCoy at this time. It feels like Cole might have a higher ceiling, but McCoy has a lower floor, if that makes sense. So it feels like Oregon, that's what they need at this point. They need some or higher floor, not a lower floor. Yeah, Cole has a higher ceiling. McCoy has a higher floor. That's what I meant. So it feels like McCoy is probably the safer bet, but who knows what Coach Chuck Jones will do out there. But the next game we're going to flip over to is the Minnesota Monsters going to Michigan to face the Michigan Arsenal again. These two teams played in Michigan earlier this year, where Minnesota was able to jump out to a big lead on Arsenal and keep it. And this was a lot more of a back and forth affair. In fact, they went to overtime, and Minnesota ended up winning this game 31-28 in overtime. So, touching on Minnesota first, Javonte Johnson, he had a game where there was the good Javonte, and then there was also the bad at the same time, where he threw for 2 touchdowns, great, threw for 135 yards, great, but he had basically a 50% completion percentage and then 2 interceptions. So it feels like this Minnesota offense has a hard cap with Javonte Johnson at quarterback at this time. Wide receiver wise, they have encountered a slew of injuries and they've had to bring in some new faces. Jamal Couch coming back off of IR. Phoenix Sproles getting signed on last week before this game, coming over from Vegas and coming home to his home state of Minnesota to play some arena football. And they were able to spread the ball out pretty well to the different options that they got there. Mo Strong, friend of the program, able to get in the mix on offense. And, Jamal Couch, 4 catches. Phoenix Sproles, 5 catches. Tyrone Laughinghouse, 4 catches. Mo Strong, 4 catches. They're distributing the ball pretty well, but their lack of running game in this one was pretty apparent with Shannon Brooks not being there due to injury. But they were able to make up for it a little bit, and ultimately they got the win. And they're sitting at 3-1 on the year. So, I don't want to say how poorly, but with how much unfulfilled potential this Minnesota offense has exhibited so far this season, the fact that they're 3-1 is massive, and their one loss being to Albany to kick off the season. That's pretty good. So I think Minnesota's in a good spot with their home opener on the horizon, and Minnesota, if again their long-term success is going to ride or die with Javonte Johnson and how well he could do at the quarterback spot. And it just feels like he's a tailor-made quarterback for TAL ball, for indoor ball to an extent. Just not sure if he fits the mold for what you need to be successful in arena ball. But to counter my own point, they're 3-1. Right. So how much of that is the responsibility of the offense? How much of that is the defense really stepping up and doing a great job? But on the other end, Malik Henry for the Michigan Arsenal, pretty good game in this one, all things considered. 3 passing touchdowns, 209 through the air, but in classic Malik Henry fashion, it was a lot of boomer bust plays, but he was able to feed the ball to some of his receivers and get them well fed. Trevonte Long, 12 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown. Dan Williams, 9 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. Not a whole lot of a running game to speak of. They kind of got Ricky Weaver at fullback going in this one, and Malik Henry had a run or two that were decent as well. But this O line for Michigan is really just causing some trouble and really allowing Henry to get a lot of pressure and to just feel it from the get go, and able to get to him a ton. But yeah, this Arsenal team, I think they're 1-4 on the year at this point, and it feels like if you were going to steal some wins, you had to at least split the series with Minnesota. But they got swept by Minnesota so far this year, and they need some help on the O-line, and they need some additional reinforcements on the defensive side in order to get back in the win column and to really get things flowing in the right direction. Because otherwise, they're going to be stuck in that second or third tier of the AF1 where they're struggling to really break through. And teams like Oregon and Washington are in that same area where somebody's got to break through amongst the three of them. And right now, it probably looks like Washington might be the best bet based on recent form, but who knows at this point. That's why we watch the games, and that's why you play the games on turf and not on paper. But the perennial game of the week was played in Albany, New York, between the Kentucky Barrels and the Albany Firebirds. And Albany won this game 55-37. It was the homecoming for Sam Castronova, who came back after a stint in the UFL, and he was back like he never left. 3 touchdowns on the ground, 3 touchdowns through the air, and he was just doing Sam Castronova things all day. 15 completions for 252 yards, which is insane. He was just dropping bombs on the defense and connecting with Darian Townsend a couple times, connecting with Dwayne Brown, and yeah, just feeding the ball to a bunch of different targets. And when you look at the wide receivers that this Albany team has right now on the roster, Dwayne Brown, Aaron Dilworth, Isaiah Scott, Darian Townsend, that's an incredible rotation, an absolutely absurd rotation of people to get in the mix there, and they were just able to outlast Kentucky. Um, got some help from the ref show up in Albany in some cases, but we're not going to dive into that. Very well deserved win by Albany in this one, and they reign supreme once again, and they have yet to lose an AF1 game since the league's creation at the beginning of 2025. And this felt like one of the games where if they were going to lose one, it was going to be this one. And they were able to outlast them. And Cashanova came in just in time to be able to get them on the straight and narrow and get them to break through. But for Kentucky, this game was fully dependent on how well Shea Spencer would or would not play. And he played pretty well, all things considered. He made the big plays that he needed to make, but then he also had some backbreaking turnovers that really put them in a tough spot to win this game. Looking at Darius Prince making his return to Albany for the first time since leaving the Firebirds at the end of 2024, heading into 2025. 13 catches, 113 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Shiloh Flanagan, 4 catches for 61 yards and 3 touchdowns. Offensively, they were doing what they needed to do. They just had some turnover issues that they just couldn't afford. And the theme of the show this week is when you're facing top tier teams, you can't afford to make more mistakes than them. You have to make less mistakes than them in order to give yourself a fighting chance. And that ended up being the difference in this game for Kentucky, where they just weren't able to get it done because of a couple of interceptions and turnovers and drives that didn't end in points, while Albany was able to keep their foot on the gas and keep it going. So Zeke Rose had a couple sacks in this one. It was applying pressure all throughout the game. And this front four, the 3 linemen and the MAC for Kentucky, probably the best in the league based on how well they're able to apply pressure, and what they were able to do in this one was no different, where they were able to force Cashanova out of the pocket at times, but Cashanova is a good enough quarterback where he's able to improvise and pull some points out of those situations, while other quarterbacks may freak out and throw it out of bounds immediately. He's comfortable enough to hold on to the ball, look downfield, either find somebody or scramble for 8 to 10 yards and score a touchdown. So Albany remains the class of the AF1, and Kentucky got a little bit of work ahead of them to break through there, but they're definitely in the same top tier as Albany at this point, and it'll be interesting to see if they're able to flip the script on them and potentially steal a win if and when they meet again. All right, lastly, we're going to touch on the NAL. Didn't have a chance to watch these games due to the travel from this past weekend, but just going to go through the scoreboard here. Salina went over to Dodge City to face the Southwest Kansas Storm. Southwest Kansas won this game 55-41. The Louisiana Rougarou took their 1-5 record to face the 1-5 Omaha Beef, and unfortunately fell flat on their face, losing 6-52. Omaha gained their second win of the season and putting themselves in a pretty good spot to snag that last playoff spot, believe it or not. The Amarillo Warbirds went up to Sioux City to face the Sioux City Bandits, and Sioux City won this game 65-18. So a struggling Warbirds team continues to struggle, while this Sioux City Bandits team is starting to get it going again and starting to roll right at the right time. And then for the second consecutive week, the Pueblo Punishers went to Denver to face the Colorado Spartans, and Colorado won this game 57-44. So they were able to split the series between the two of them. Oddly enough, Pueblo scored 44 in both games. One of them it was enough. One of them it was not. So looking at the standings now, Southwest Kansas pretty much has that 1 seed locked in. Maybe not officially, but it's pretty dang close to being official at this point with the way they've been playing. Southwest Kansas 8-0. locked into the playoffs. I think they might have locked in a first round bye at this point. But Sioux City sitting at 5-2 in the 2 seed, Puebla sitting at 6-3 in the 3 seed, Salina 4-3, Colorado 4-4, and then Omaha rounding out the top 6 at 2-5. So top 6 make the playoffs in the NAL, and being that they're down to 8 teams at this point, it's looking like Louisiana and Amarillo are going to be on the outside looking in. So, yeah, the usual suspects that you would have thought to make the playoffs are looking like they'll make the playoffs in this one. May not have been in the order that people may have thought, but yeah, it looks like the 6 that people would have expected before the season started will be in the playoffs as that comes a lot sooner than you realize, around the corner towards the end of this month. And that's the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to check it out. Big thanks to Coach Kurtiss Riggs for joining the program and talking through his journey, and just talking ball about the Sioux Falls Storm, and some of the stuff that happened towards the end there, as well as his commentary journey. And again, looking forward to hearing more of what he brings to the table, not just this weekend, but through the rest of this season. Social plugs, please make sure you're following us on all of our socials. At Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball, Off the Wall FB, Instagram, X/Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, all the things and stuff. It's in the description below. So please click through and give us a follow if you don't already. Call to action for this week's episode. If you're on YouTube, please leave a comment. Throw me a buzzword that you want me to try to work into the Vegas color commentary that we got going on the second leg of the IFL Cup this upcoming Monday. Again, no promises, but hey, we'll see if I can organically sprinkle some of this stuff in, and get some laughs out of some of y'all. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, if you're listening to the podcast, thank you for doing that. Please make sure you're going to the show and rating it 5 stars, preferably. But hey, do your thing. I trust your judgment. Share it with a friend. Do all that stuff. Help grow the game a little bit. offthewallfb.com. We got the blog up and running. We'll do picks for the weekend as well. So got back in the win column on picks. Ended up with a 3-2 week this past week. So we're still chasing the dragon of that undefeated week that some of my counterparts have already achieved this week. But yeah, it should be a very fun weekend of IFL ball ahead. And Royal Retros, got the Royal Retros affiliate link below. So just scroll down just a little bit, click on that, and then use code OFFTHEWALL for 10% off your purchase. Get a really cool piece of memorabilia, whether it be a shirt, hoodie, any of that stuff, and save a little cash at the same time. And show Royal Retros that, hey, I heard you guys threw off the wall. Let's give them a little bit of credit there. So, yeah, IFL Cup this weekend. Please make sure you're staying tuned to socials for all the fun that we got going on with that. Lining up some really neat interviews with people, and should have some really good content on the socials. So again, make sure you're following on there and engaging, so that way you don't miss out on that. I don't think there's anything else. Yeah, I think we're good. So there's only 24 hours in a day. The fact that you chose to spend about an hour 15, an hour 20 listening to this show and listening to the conversation with Coach Riggs means a lot. So thank you so much for taking the time. And yeah, let's have ourselves a great weekend of 50-yard football ahead of us. And let's enjoy the IFL Cup. Let's enjoy what the AF1 has to offer. And let's enjoy what the NAL has on the horizon as well. So take care. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.